everybody, welcome back to With the Souls of Trees. I am tired. Where were we? I'm prepared to run my fight or flight instincts in overdrive as Ramsey circles us. Oh yeah, big old danger dragon trying to eat our face. Okay, well then answer the other question. What do you want, now that you've been poisoned by the dark? There's no way out for you. Dove challenges, cracking his knuckles in a threatening way. That's so not threatening in my opinion. Like, I crack my knuckles all the time. In fact, I was doing it just before I started recording, so they won't crack. Haha, there is some left. So, like, why is that threatening? It's not threatening if you ask me. I don't know. Ramses doesn't even flinch at the bravado. Yeah, I wouldn't either. This forest is a prison, and I will destroy it. Welp. Dove and I recoil in shock. The mere notion of wanting to put the forest basically to the torch sends us into silence. This place is the lifeblood of the world. Everything we rely on comes from the forest, and we treat it justly in return. To ruin it would be the worst. No way. You can't mean that. It's so important to us. You would get rid of it just like that? I desire its destruction because it took wishes to an obscene degree. What do you mean? It could have simply ignored them. Took what wishes? You're talking as if the forest is completely sentient. You have no idea, human. Ramsey suddenly jabs forward, grasping the gemstone Dove had been holding in a clawed hand. His claws scrape against its surface, making Dove gasp in alarm. And you two are trying to stop me. So it's time to get rid of you. This was the last key into getting rid of you once and for all. His body warps suddenly, a whirlwind of black feathers surrounding him. I close my eyes and brace myself against the gust. When it clears and I look back, instead, a huge black and red dragon sits. Obsidian scales coat his body, a gray belly and a ruff of bright red feathers. Black goops? Ew. Goops. Somehow goops is more gross than goop. Drips from his mouth and underneath his scales. Holding the stone in one huge hand, Ramses brings it to his muzzle and opens his mouth. Rows of sharp teeth graze the stone and Dove hisses. Not as intimidating as I was imagining. Kind of wolf-like. There aren't many things that can kill dragons, only ancient tools and other dragons. Ramses speaks, his voice booming and warped. His serpentine body coils around itself, large bat-like but feathered wings tight against his back. He dips his long neck to look down at me, eyes narrowed with playful malice. Thank you for wandering into the forest, Keaton. My body shakes, and the dread builds up in me. Did I really doom Dove and the others? Is my presence here just one that will ultimately lead to failure? No, I can't think that way. There must be something we can do. As if reading my thoughts, Dove strikes past me. His form is different now, and I notice he's turning into its true form. A much smaller dragon, mossy scales rippling with energy. He barrels into Ramses, and despite his size, he still sends them spiraling into the ground. The stone is flung from Ramses' hand and rolls against the earth. I run towards it and scoop it into my arms, breathing a sigh of relief that it's unharmed. What should I do? Dove? What should I do? Dove! Okay. I call out to him, panicking at the tumble of dragons tearing through the clearing. I retreat towards the altar, shouldering my backpack so I don't lose it. All I can hear are snarls and yelps, and I frantically try and get a better view of the fight. The blackness is going everywhere, and I know it must be painful on Dove's skin. I saw the look on his face when he had tried to clear the sludge away in the dirt before. Break it apart. If you do it, it might not be as bad. Dove calls to me, his head turned towards me. I see blood dripping down his body, but I tried to ignore it. Are you crazy? You'd die. I trust you. Don't say that. That's weird. Jeez, Dove. So standoffish. Don't be not standoffish. It's weird. I pause, heart clenching, and look down at the stone in my hands. Why should I break it? What point would there be to doing that? That's what Ramses wanted, right? There's a loud thump, and suddenly Dove is tossed aside. Ramses is looking to me, eyes wild as he bares all of his teeth. You will not. You cannot. That is mine. His reaction makes a light bulb go off in my head, and I remember the words he said before. A human and a dragon heart warmed in tandem. Could it mean the trust Dove is putting in me? If so, then what if this really was what we had to do? Grabbing the hammer, I glance around for Dove. I see him heaving himself to his feet, dashing over to Ramses and headbutting him in the gut as the other gets too close to me. Bonk. Do it, Keaton. Ruin this guy's plans. Finally nodding, I raise the hammer and strike down. Everything suddenly stops. There's no one else but me in a shaded orchard of apple trees. I look around, finding nothing else as far as my eyes can see. Movement appears in the corner of my eye, and I see the person that looked like Dove, but much more human. I walk over. I would have eaten it. Eat the dragon teal! Ha 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 ha! Though as I get closer, I hide behind a tree. He's there with the woman from before. They're hunching over something, and I can see the heart-detailed hammer in the woman's hand. Dove, this one is too small. Yeah, I don't think this will last very long. I dare to get a little closer, unsure if this will be a similar situation where they don't notice me. But as I get closer, horror grips me. Lying at their feet is a dead dragon, a very small one, but a dragon all the same. Dove said the woman had been a dragon killer, but why is Dove also here? I wonder. Come on, Seraph. At least it'll get us through until the spring. These things come out a lot more once it gets warmer. The woman, Seraph, stands up. She puts the dead dragon into a duffel and slings it over her shoulder with a loud huff. All right, let's go. I don't want any more of them to sprout from the woodwork. They walk away, and I go to where the dragon had been lying. There's blood on the grass and a few feathers. I pick one up and twirl it in my hands. What was that? I hear a familiar voice spinning around. What? Dove as a human is there, but he seems more tangible. Why does he look like me? Oh, gotcha, okay. Dove, is that you? Why do you look like that? I don't know. Where are we? Could these be memories you lost before your reincarnation? He takes that information and nods hesitantly. I blink and instantly the scenery changes. The apple trees are here, but now a stone platform sits in the middle. The trees around us look sick, their leaves speckled with black. The other human, Dove and Seraph, stand before a small group of hooded figures. The two look on the defensive with paled expressions. My Dove stays rooted to the ground, but I can see his body shake. We're just trying to survive. Get lost. Dove holds Seraph's hand, who grips it tightly back. Bones litter the ground behind them, and I don't know if that's just part of the imagery or specifically for us to see. One of the hooded figures takes a step forward, tilting up their chin at Dove. You've been chosen by the forest, not because of your connection, but because your blood has been tainted considerably. Your own actions are your undoing. Just because of what we did, we can't be the only ones. Winter is hard in this part of the forest. We kept ourselves alive. The hooded figure ignores her, hidden eyes still fixed on Dove, standing there with defiance glowing in his eyes. He takes a step forward, letting go of Seraph's hand and marching right up to the figure before him. Sneering, he folds his arms, suddenly looking far more confident. Chosen by the forest? Ridiculous. Those are absolute fairy tales made up by you people keeping us in line. His words make it seem that it's been some time since these kinds of things came into play, his disbelief evident by his more relaxed stature. Your ignorance is understandable but futile. Dove's eyes narrow, and he jabs a finger at the stranger accusingly. I heard of folks vanishing into the woods after meeting your people. They were never seen again. I'm not adding myself to that list. As if they were deaf to Dove's bravado, the stranger raises a hand, letting their long sleeve fall down from their arm. Faster than I could blink, a blade is embedded into Dove's chest. Coughing, Dove staggers backwards, and Seraph runs to him with wide eyes. He falls into her grasp, and they both fall back onto the grass. Falls into her grasp. They fall into the grass. Oh, that hurt my neck. Seraph doesn't dare tug the blade free, knowing it would be much worse if she did. She reaches for it with shaking hands, nevertheless tempted. Dove! Dove! She cries, watching as Dove claws at his chest with clenched teeth. His eyes flit up to the stranger who stands there, unfazed. What are you doing? I thought you needed me for something, huh? He hisses as blood seeps out from between his teeth, struggling to stand despite Seraph's protests. It's already started, they say simply, and the scenery suddenly changes again. Seraph is gone, but the hooded figure remains. I notice something in both their hands, and I cover my mouth. A mourning dove, limp in one hand, an apple picked right from the trees around them in the other. Beneath them sits a large stone platform, a mass of feathers coiling around something atop it. A screech rips through the air, and a serpentine mass appears from the feathers. I recognize Dove's dragon form, eyes alight with terror and confusion as he looks around. He lays eyes on the hooded figure, then darts into the forest. Beside me, the dove I know trembles, sweat dripping down his face. I reach out my hand to him, offering some semblance of comfort. He grabs it and squeezes. The hooded figure lays the bird and fruit atop the platform, picks up a stone left behind that gleams in the dim forest light, then lets out a long sigh. And I give thee a guardian who has stolen from you. Pray give him a punishment you see fit. The house again, looking much worse than before. Seraph sits on a little stone step in the door, cradling her face in her hands as she sobs. Where did you go? Dove, where did they take you? A figure steps from the forest, walking over to her with shaking legs and labored breathing. She barely notices until they're right in front of her. She looks up, horror replacing her sorrow. Dove? Dove, is that you? What's... I shield my eyes as Dove raises a clawed hand, morphed completely into something barely human. With an animalistic snarl, he gouges down. Yummy. Crouching into the ground, I hide my face in my knees. The dove beside me sounds like he has something in his throat and tries to speak. Nothing comes out. You ate them. You ate the dragons. I point out, though he knows it's obvious now. He thought it was just a lone woman for so many years, one who survived by taking the forest spoon, all of them. I'm sure it must be a lot to take in. Look at those pupils. This is hilarious. I guess this has been my punishment, killing her and living this life, huh? Dove, I'm so sorry. Your memories, they must have been in that stone. Yeah, I get it. All makes sense now, I guess. Wynn said I could have known her in a past life. Looks like he was just trying to hide it all. He wraps his arm around himself and squeezes. I watch his eyes well with tears that drip slowly onto the ground as he stares at nothing. I've done something terrible, huh? A bunch of things, actually. I killed basically my own kind, in a way. What if it had been Magpie, or Fisher, and then Seraph? Dove collapses, and I panic as I attempt to help cushion his fall. He ignores my touch, instead looking down at the ground with a tired expression. All this time, I've been what I hated most. My friendship with them is so fake. Narrowing my eyes, I grip his shoulder a little too hard. I see him wince and look up at me. Squeech. Squeech. Don't think like that. You need to talk to them now. Start there first. How could I possibly do that now? Did you just hear me? What if I had killed them then? But you didn't. And now you're very important. Wait, and now they're very important to you. And you're important to them. So now we have to save them. Dove's eyes widen when I say that, so I decide to continue my thought while I have his attention. We can save them now. I'm going to help you save your home and your friends and you. And once we do that, You three can talk about stuff. Stuff and things. You know, the usual. Okay? So, don't give up just yet. I have an arm around Dove's shoulder, and I give it a squeeze. He can't just give up. Dove looks at me with a new expression, as his eyes glimmer with a sure surge of confidence, jaw set and nodding slowly. All right. He gets sheepish all of a sudden, leaning further into my touch. Can you just be there to help me explain? Sure. I help him to his feet, and he brushes off his pants. He seems a bit more embarrassed after all that, but I leave it be. When we get out of here, what if Ramses is still there? He's clobbering you. I'm curious, though. Where are we? Are our bodies trapped in some alternate space? I don't feel pain at all. I put a hand to my chin and close my eyes, thinking about how we could possibly get out. Try thinking of somewhere, like the apple orchard. That must be where we have to go. For what? The cure? Nodding, I grasp his hand in my own, seeing him flinch, but not pull away this time. Yes, exactly. That's where all those visions were. It must be the ingredient we need. Dove gives me an unconvinced look, but doesn't say anything. Instead, he closes his eyes, seemingly focused on where we have to be. I watch with bated breath. I close my eyes as well, feeling our heartbeats ring in my ears. Everything feels so calm, tranquil even, after all we had just witnessed. Despite that, Dove's hands are tight around mine, like he's using me as a lifeline. The absence of noise is interrupted when I hear birds give a warning and fly off, feeling myself sink into soft grass. Immediately opening my eyes, I find us in the clearing of apple trees I had seen in Dove's memories. Apples! The trees are laden with fruit, birds hopping from their branches and peering down at us as they chirp to each other. A stone pedestal sits a ways off, covered in moss and leaves. Turning to the person in front of me, I see that Dove I've become used to, his black and green eyes narrowed in pain. Wounds are scattered across his arms, but I can already see them healing. Oh, let me get you a bit more clean. No need, it's already healing. He starts, but I cut him off when I make him sit down. Letting out a hiss, Dove obeys, but he gives me a glare as I pour water onto a cloth to clean some of the blood off of him. You don't have to do that, you know. Well, I'm going to. Makes me feel bad if you're covered in blood, especially since it looks like it hurts. Dove lets me clean up the blood without another word, being surprisingly patient as I wipe at his face. He scrunches up his cheek, the feathery tip of his tail twitching back and forth. We used to come here and pick the apples. We'd make apple butter, pies, jam, applesauce, trade it for supplies and such. Winter used to be much worse here, so after the autumn, we would run out of everything until Dove went quiet, so I decided to stand up and wander a bit. The apples were ripe, even though it wasn't the season for them. The area must have some lingering magical power to keep it eternally plentiful. Deciding to change the subject, I grabbed an apple and juggled it between my hands. What kind of person was Seraph? You seemed really close. Perking up, Dove finally smiled. Both of us were orphaned when we were kind of young, I think. We were both best friends and siblings and decided to stick by each other. She was good at just about everything. Anything we did was by mutual agreement, even if one of us disagreed on something. When you feel alone, having someone with you through it makes you feel much more safe in mind and body. I closed my eyes, seeing her visage in my thoughts. Dark brown eyes and dark skin, black hair, kept short around her ears. Her laughter and fond expression directed at Dove, warping into one of despair. Opening my eyes again, I looked to the dragon beside me. I stuffed a few apples into my backpack and took a bite of one I'd been holding. The loud crunch got Dove's attention, and he grimaced at the apple. Hey, don't eat those. What if they're weird? Tastes fine to me. Actually, the best apple I've ever tasted. Yeah, okay, but what if it's weird? Dove presses, grabbing for the apple, though I back away and keep out of reach with a laugh. Worried? Yeah, I am. He stops, and a blush creeps up onto his face and ears. I have to protect you, don't I? What would I do if something happened to you? Okay, okay. Don't get all frazzled. I toss the apple away, and Dove visibly relaxes. He's doing a terrible job of hiding how worried he was. Was he trying to hide it? Didn't seem like it. He straight out admitted it. Just saying. Alright. We have what we need. Let's get going. Do you know where you're going? Finding the cure was difficult. Is the well even more trouble? What's the cure? Apples? No. The well's location is known to everyone. It's something we have to look out for after all. While Ramses was the main guardian, all the rest of us took care of it as well, so I know where it is. I sighed, grateful for the fact. Good. I don't know how much aimless walking around I could handle. Sorry, that's just how it is, I guess. We start on our way, walking slowly through the forest floor. Animals jump out of our way or peer at us from the trees, their bodies all showing signs of respect towards something higher in the chain. Dove walks with purpose, but this time instead of foraying ahead of me, he stays close. A bit too close when I almost trip over him. Dove, I'm not going anywhere. He lets out a loud folding his arms. If Ramses is waiting for us, we need to be careful. Can't have you dying on me. Why would he be at the well? Didn't you hear him earlier? He wants to destroy everything. So he's trying to stop us because we're trying to stop him. Of course he would still be on our tail. I put a hand to my chin and nod slowly. It obviously makes sense, but part of me hopes that since we now have the cure, he'd leave us alone. The conversation stops as we both feel a surge of energy around us. It feels heavy, reminiscent of Ramses' presence. Dove parts some dense foliage, and we pause, staring into a huge opening clearing. A deep pit stands before us, surrounded by buckling arches and pillars. Stairs go down into the depths, down, 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 until I can't see anymore. The forest grows thick here, roots and vines burrowing under the stone and breaking it apart. It's seen better days, but there's something still otherworldly about it. Dove gives a tsk and walks forwards with me close on his heels. After all my complaining about walking too close, I'm the new one to blame. I notice a black mist rises from the pit as we get closer to it. Peering over the edge, I can't tell what's down there, but there's a weird glow at the bottom. Noticing some stairs off to the side, I take a step towards them. Dove grabs my wrist and shakes his head. Wouldn't do that if I were you. Deciding to comply, I go back towards him. So, what do? Just toss it in there? I don't have any other ideas, so why not? I go into my backpack and take out an apple, but just one. I have more just in case we need to do something different. Tossing it between my hands, I then throw it towards the middle of the well. Just then, I'm quite glad that I didn't throw all the apples in. A huge dragonic head shoots out from the black mist, catching the apple in its mouth and crunching down with more force than necessary. The rest of Ramses' huge body climbs over the side opposite me and Dove, wounds dripping black blood that sizzles onto the stone. Dove and I stare in shock as Ramses looms over us, seemingly bigger and more mangled. Gross. Why can we see through Ramses? Right here. Why can we see through that? That's weird. That must have just been a coloring accident. I don't know, that's weird. Took you long enough. Did you have a little heart-to-heart? Ramses hisses, tapping long claws in a rhythmic motion on the side of the well. His mouth curves into a long sneer, teeth pointed and discolored. Dove stands in front of me and I gulp, trying to hold my ground. Ramses looked terrifying like this. Sure did, but that isn't any of your business. Did you find out all the unspeakable things you did? How horrible it was? Did you almost lose yourself? Laughed the dragon as he lounged like a cat, far too relaxed for my comfort. Oh, you wish. Oh, could it be? Could your hearts truly have warmed up to each other? Interesting. Ramses paused, pupils barely visible with how slitted they were. That doesn't change anything. As long as you can get that fruit into this here well. Oh, can't get that fruit into this here well. You've lost. And Dove, don't try and do it yourself. Only Keaton can do it. We both flinch. Well, we hadn't even thought of doing that. It was already off the table. Why can only Keaton do it? Ramses picks at his teeth with a claw, flicking away bits of apple stuck in his teeth. If it was that easy, you and the others could have done it yourselves. That's true. If the dragon could just put in the cure by themselves... If the dragons could just put in the cure by themselves, there'd barely be any need for us to work together. But since you still have a chance, I have to make it more difficult for you. Fast as before, his claws flashed out and swiped at me. Dove tried to move as quick as he could, but the talons still gouged across my raised arm before it tumbled out of the way. Ow, 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 ow. I had fallen a bit roughly, scraping my elbows. I cradled my arms against my body and panicked at the blood dripping down them. Dove helped me sit up, holding me close to him while Ramses laughed where he sat. Turning and glaring, Dove bared his teeth. Is this really the will of the forest? What a joke. Goodness, no. It's the culmination of the past guardians and my own unbridled anger. I slowly reach into my backpack, trying not to irritate my wounds too much while I got out my first aid kit. Dove took control, grabbing the little box and taking out the things I instructed him to. Ramsay watched it all with an increasingly annoyed expression, heaving himself to his feet to begin pacing. Oh, how cute. I thought you hated humans, Dove. What's with this? Tenderness. Keaton is different. Just because they showed you care, they aren't the first one. What makes them so different? Dove went quiet as he continued to clean my wounds, which weren't slowing their blood flow. It must be some side effect of Ramses's poison claws. I could see the worry etched into his face as he held the gauze with trembling fingers. Curious about it myself, I stayed quiet, focusing on keeping my body still and breathing even. I'm just tired of not being able to trust them. We need to work together to protect ourselves and what's important. As we always have, no matter who or what we are. Ramses made a gagging sound, footsteps heavy as he got closer. Yuck. Too simple, too simple. I expected you, out of all of them, to agree with me. Well, I'm so sorry. He turned to me, face close, as he whispered, I'll get his attention. Don't make a show of it this time. After I nodded, Dove stood up. He glanced down at me, though I was already rummaging for the next apple in my bag, and sprinted towards Ramses. He turned into a dragon in the blink of an eye, careening into Ramses' side with a good headbutt. The larger dragon yelped, and they started a vicious scuffle. Due to his smaller size, Dove lacked the necessary strength to do the damage, but he made up for it with his speed and dexterity, ducking and weaving. I tried not to focus on their fight, inching closer to the well as to not arouse too much suspicion, but I could begin to see new wounds on Dove's body. Forcing myself to look away, I reached the well. A spasm of pain runs through my body, and I look down at my arms. The area around my wounds are becoming black, and I'm losing feeling in my hands. In a moment of panic, I try and increase the circulation, realizing too late it's the worst thing I could do if I was somehow poisoned. Oh no, no. I mumble while trying to make my way to the very edge of the well. It's getting hard to hold anything, so I struggle the apple into my mouth. Suddenly hearing a loud crash, I turn to see Dove getting slammed into a half-broken pillar. He tumbles over himself and struggles to his feet, teeth bared. Ramses grins, mouth open with black dripping from his teeth and chin. He suddenly spins his gaze towards me, eyes narrowing angrily. Hold on, Keaton, it hurts, doesn't it? You'll lose all feeling in your body if you keep moving. Stay still, I could help you, Voice threatening, Ramses begins to pad over. I use a final surge of energy to lean over the well and drop the apple in. I look back at Ramses, leaning back onto the stone and trying to point at him. We win, you disgusting lizard. Ramses roars angrily, starting to run over while Dove snarls wordlessly at him. The smaller dragon is littered with scratches and bite marks, but he still leaps onto Ramses' back and claws at him. A bright light flashes suddenly, and I wince, closing my eyes. I hear the fighting stop, then an ear-splitting roar comes from Ramses. I spin my head to see both Dove and Ramses holding their heads in pain. Stumbling as the light flashes again, Dove has turned out of his dragon form, face contorted in pain. Looking over to the well, I see light pouring out of it, until it solidifies into something like water. It gushes up and over the top, cascading along the stone. When it hits the dragons, a sizzling sound reaches my ears, like lava falling into the ocean. Ramses falls over, writhing around as his body coils in agony. Dove goes to his knees, teeth clenched, as the water flows over them. I feel nothing as it hits me. It's pleasantly cool on my skin, a welcome respite after Ramses' suffocating presence. The shining water keeps flowing, spreading out over the forest. I don't know how far it will go, but I know it's going to clean up whatever needs to be cleaned. Panicking, I run over to Dove and put a hand on his shoulder. Feeling a scalding hot temperature, I don't dare splash more water onto him despite its crisp feeling, knowing it actually hurts him. Dove, are you alright? What's wrong? He simply growls, body taut. I look over to where Ramses is, and I see he's gone still. Black blood, feathers, and scales are falling off him into the water, hissing as they touch. When I look back to Dove, I stop. His horns are gone, fallen off with a light splash into the water. Scales fall from his arms out of nowhere, and the markings on his face and arms vanish. Hey, hey! I call out to Dove again, and he finally opens his eyes. They're amber, the black in his eyes turned completely white. He's exactly how he looked in his memories. Oh, I feel terrible. Oh, you're okay, thank goodness. I can't resist hugging him around the neck, but I let go once he lets out a groan of discomfort. Sorry. Wait, what's happened to me? A cough sounds from where Ramses was, and we look over to see him hauling himself to his feet with shaky legs. He doesn't have any of the black dripping out of his eyes anymore, but it's stained his face and clothes. He doesn't have black dripping out of his eyes anymore, literally a drip dripping out of his eye. It seems the well is pure again and wants to be free of us. Finally. That doesn't entirely explain why I'm mortal. Ramses laughs weakly and coughs again, but doesn't get any closer. You're free, you idiot. I'm sure the others are too. Dove perks up after hearing that, seeming hopeful that his friends are all right. He suddenly remembers something else, snapping to be, what? And holding his palms up to me. Keaton, your arms! Show them to me. I oblige and find them much easier to move now. I lay my hands atop Dove's and he gives me a little squeeze. They still kind of ache, I admit, but I can feel the feeling coming back to them. Dove frantically splashes more water on me, since it's obviously the thing that healed my wounds. Good, he says simply, letting out a long sigh of relief. His worry calms me and I smile at him. Thank you, Dove. What's there to think? You did all the work. We both did all the work. Like you said, we did it together. Dove gets a bit bashful at that and his hands linger on mine. He doesn't pull away. Oh, it's too sweet, it's cringy. My teeth are sensitive. I don't need this much sweet. Our jobs are done, but the forest wants you to still exist, it seems. Ramses suddenly continues, holding a hand over his chest, blood dripping down between his fingers. How lucky. What about you? I am tied too closely to the well. I'll be no more. Do you pity me? He asks with a sneer, and Dove raises an eyebrow. I wouldn't call it pity, but it does sound kind of sad. He tilts his head a little bit, expression almost melancholy. Wouldn't it be melancholic? Whatever. Thanks for these long years, even though you were weird. And sorry we couldn't do more. Ramses narrows his eyes and frowns. There is nothing you could do, anyway. If you knew the truth of it all, maybe we would be of more similar minds. The truth about what? Us? It's more than you think. And what exactly is the truth? Ramses hisses painfully, falling onto his side. Me and Dove reach for him, but go no closer, afraid it's all a ruse. Then he smiles. It's a mixture of sadness, anger, and just straight up giving up. He gives a weak shrug of his shoulders. I really don't have the heart nor the energy to tell you. Gonna take it to your grave, huh? Then Ramses closes his eyes and heaves a long sigh. The feathers around his collar ruffle and begin to burn. It's like incense smoldering out until his entire body falls away into the water. Aw, that's sad. No, I don't like it. Scales break up into dust and gold jewelry clicks to the ground in a small pile. I watch as remnants of feathers float away. Staring at the spot he had been, I pluck one of his golden rings from beneath the water and twirl it in my fingers. He was just sad, wasn't he? That isn't any excuse to take everything down with you. All that, and he didn't even put up a fight at the end. What are you talking about? He looked pretty bad for a bit there. Hey, I did my best. He was really strong. Oh wait, did I read that last bit wrong? What are you talking about? You looked pretty bad for a bit there. Hey, I did my best. He was really strong. Obviously, I prevailed in the end. We sat for another minute, getting our bearing back after all that craziness. I felt so tired, but now that I could finally relax, the exhaustion was hitting my body like a truck. Everything looked a bit cleaner now for some reason, the stone practically sparkling underneath the water. It still flowed outwards from the well, but it was barely an inch deep. I'm sure it would flow into the forest and clean the impurities left behind by the dark and the rampage Ramses has been on. Now, though, I simply really wanted to go home. I sighed, willing my legs to move, but they were frozen. I could tell that I was at my limit. Hey, Dove. Yeah. I closed my eyes, feeling his body close to mine. He was a normal temperature now, thank goodness. I'm super tired. I think that weird poison is still making me feel a bit terrible. Huh? What do you mean? Your arms look fine. My eyes creak open, and I could see Dove staring at me through my hazy vision. He looked really worried. Just gonna take a nap. Hey, Keaton, wait, you shouldn't fall asleep. We need to get out of here. Hey. I skipped a word, and now it's awkward. Keaton. His voice fades out as I fall unconscious, and soon I'm in a deep sleep. I can faintly feel someone holding me tightly, but can't register if it's real or not. The weird escapade I'd been on completely wore me out, body and mind. Half of me thinks it could all be some incredibly odd, lucid dream, but as I feel my consciousness returning, the soreness from it all remains. Looking around, I see familiar scenery. It takes a bit for me to realize that I'm in my room, blankets smothering me when I don't need them. I feel stifling underneath them and try to sit up. I wince, noticing my arms are all bandaged, and realize everything had actually happened. I rub a hand over the gauze, taking note that it had been changed recently. No one else is here, but I see someone had left a glass of water and a muffin on my nightstand. I finish both in mere minutes. My rubbing around must have alerted others, as a pink-haired head pokes into the room. I resist the urge to cry when I see my parents. They rush over to me, enveloping me in a tight hug that I return with as much strength as I am able. I just feel so weak for some reason. I can hear Dad sobbing quietly into my shirt, his tears soaking the cloth. Pa's hand smooths my ruffled hair, and I melt into the contact. Hey, how long have I been asleep? I decide to ask once we've got our hugs out of the way. Dad and Pa exchange glances, sitting on opposite sides of my bed. Oh. It's only been a few days. We found you where you had left your bike, but you were missing for 5 days. 5 days? It didn't feel like that long, but then again, I saw so many weird things that the forest must have messed up everything. What? Oh my god, I'm so sorry. Shh, it's okay. You're here now, and you're safe. But still. I go quiet, then practically burst out of the covers, clambering over Pa to get to the door. Dove, where was he? Was he alright? Did they arrest him thinking he kidnapped me or something? I fall to the ground on weak legs, and Pa comes over, panicking as he helps me up. Keaton, relax, what's the matter? There was another person with me, or there should have been. Where is he? My folks exchange a look, and I can feel my heart plummet. I watch Dad leave the room, and all kinds of scenarios run through my head. Did he leave behind some note saying he had to go away? Some little memento to remember him by? I stop when I hear voices in the kitchen and realize Dad is talking to someone. We have no other family and don't often have company, so I force myself to my feet again. This time, I'm more sure in my steps, though Pa still helps me along a bit. I enter the room, seeing Dad leaning against the table as he beckons to the person sitting in a chair. You're awake! I stare at him in shock, and he runs over to me. He takes my wrists gently, licking them over in case anything bled through. You slept so long. We were getting a bit worried. Sorry. What even happened? Did I pass out? Yeah, practically right after Ramses left, you collapsed. It freaked me out. Oh, practically right after Ramses left, you collapsed. It freaked me out. There we go. I turned to look at my parents, who are off to the side, seeming quite pleased. I can't help but ask, though. You just let him into our house, even though you didn't know who he is? Hey, I passed out when we got to the forest border. They took us both to the doctor. He was clinging to you like his life depended on it. When he woke up, which he did far quicker than you, he told us everything. I glared incredulously at Dove. Everything. You got lost and he found you, though I don't know where he could have come from. Dove squared his shoulders and gave a little cough. I raised an eyebrow at him, waiting for him to save his butt. I've lived in the forest for many years. Before I know it, I had fallen into a deep slumber and woke up to my home completely ruined. Realizing he was cutting out the part of being a dragon, I relaxed and waited for him to finish. Keaton tried to help me back here, but we both managed to lose our way. If not for them, I'd be wasting away in there. Dove gave a curt little bow towards my parents, and they both widened their eyes at the respectful way he was carrying himself. So, I'm glad they got lost in the forest, as much as it ended up being harrowing. I did the best I could to protect them. Pa put a hand to his chin, looking at Dove and nodding. Thank you for returning our idiot child. You're welcome here any time. Thanks, Pa. Dad nudged at Pa, and they smiled at each other, as if there had been some unspoken secret between them. Then they ushered me back to bed, saying I needed to heal more before doing anything. I decided to oblige, but I was the last person you wanted to take care of while I was stuck in bed. Nevertheless, it let me show Dove some of my favorite things, which made his curiosity boundless. He especially liked all of my books, sitting there while I slept and reading. Dove insisted on caring for me, bringing me snacks and cleaning my bandages. He was remarkably good at those sort of things, and recalled Ramses calling him a healer. It took a few more days until I was given the okay to go out and about, but I was more than ready to. I was tired of my room. Deciding I wanted to walk down closer to the beach, I finally grabbed Dove and forced him out the door. I don't know if Dove has ever gotten a good look at the ocean, but it's something I've been dying to show him. Sitting on one of the walls next to the path, I look out over the city and take a deep breath. It smells like salt and smoke from the evening market. And it's completely home. My voice is starting to get tired, but I feel like this is like over. So I just want to finish it instead of, you know? I'm sure it's going to be super different than what you're used to, but it'll become familiar. I suddenly reassure him, knowing he's already had too much information loaded onto him after a few days. It's basically the future, especially since he couldn't interact properly. Your city is nice. I haven't felt the open air in I don't know how long. The forest is very close together. Nodding, I remember the paths that even the animals use. Trees on all sides where you had to squeeze your way through them. The bushes and fallen flora along the way. Do you think you'll stay here? Picking up some little rocks placed on the wall, I absentmindedly dropped them into a lower walkway. They fall on the top of someone's cart, though they don't pay it any mind. Dove gave me a narrowed look, as if my question was weird. What do you mean? I avoid looking at him, continuing to toss pebbles down, like going somewhere else or something. I don't know what you want to do. Keaton. You're not a guardian anymore, so... Keaton, I'm not going anywhere. I'm getting embarrassed. It's not even my story. Finally turning to him, I stare with wide eyes. A hopeful feeling spreads through me, and I stop tossing pebbles. I place them softly beside me. I'm quiet, understanding that he's continuing with what he was saying. I don't want to go anywhere else. I don't even know if my friends are alive, so I want to stick around in case they show up. I need to explain to them what I did before I became a guardian, and he gets bashful, leaning against the wall and looking up at me. I want to stay with you. I'm going to get diabetes. It's too sweet. Are you laughing at me?
Yeah, sorry.
My heart picks up and I can't help but get a smile that spreads across my face. I was hoping Hugh would want to stay. I wanted him to stay. Really, really? I curve my body closer to him, our foreheads almost touching. Ew. I see him gulp as his face gets more red. Yes, really? I wanted to stay with you, okay? In my moment of happiness, I leap from the wall. Catch me! Whoa! He holds out his arms, wrapping them around my middle as I fall on top of him. He teeters a bit backwards, but his feet remain planted on the ground. Wow, even though you're human now, you're still strong, huh? No, you're so heavy. I can feel his arms shake with the effort of keeping me in his arms, but he's doing his best not to drop me. I laugh, and he looks at me with wide eyes. I'd love for you to stay, Dove. I say finally, and he bites at his lip, nodding. Aww. Aww. Thanks for everything. It really was quite something being in the forest like that. I hug him tightly and he held me close, happiness exploding in my chest. I decided that even though I had this simple life, Dove was in it now, and we were together. I need to go do something else now. I rushed through that last bit because it's too cheesy. It's too cheesy. It's too much. Too much. Now I'm feeling all shy and weird. Okay? Thank you everybody for coming out and playing with me. I had a ton of fun. If you want to read the other routes on your own, 10 out of 10, do recommend. First link in the description to the game. You're welcome. Also, I have merch now! Self-plug, yay! Second link in the description. And join the Discord. Third link in the description. Yes. I'll see y'all next time. Bye!